think also connected to, I don't know if this was addressed in what Izabel just said because I didn't speak French, but connected to what both of your questions is like basically, you know, in saying that, you know, people put themselves in these situations in order to be in control of the situation. You know, there's, I don't know if anybody has ever seen the Alison Anders film, Things Behind the Sun, where it's a film about, it's not a horror film, but basically, you know, she had an experience, the film is about a woman who has an experience being raped as a young girl, who later in life can no longer have sex without reenacting that exact scenario. And so it's like, and that is based on a true story, and it's the kind of thing I think that gets played out in these movies a lot, you know, where people, like when you put yourself in a situation where it's like, okay, but this time I'm in control, and this time I know it can stop when I want it to, and stuff like that, is very empowering to a lot of people who've been victimized in the past. So I think that a lot of these films deal with that stuff, and it's hard to watch, and it's like harsh, but there's some, you know, like you said, there's more going on than just misogyny in a lot of these images.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I think people read a little bit too much into horror films. You know, we've all read Carol Grover, but also at the same time, sometimes I think a knife is just a knife. It's not always a stand-in for a penis. Really. Call me an anti-feminist, I don't know what you will, but it's not always about that. It's not always about hatred of women or trying to marginalize women. It's just a horror movie, and 9 times out of 10, you know, people would rather see a woman get naked and killed than some old fat guy.
Okay, we're probably
just to add very quickly, just also because it kind of also goes with what Izabel was saying. I think that personally, in terms of like that whole topic, we all as human beings, I think, like have darkness inside of ourselves, and to deny that part of the nature. We all have dark impulses, we all have thoughts. I don't think anyone can deny ever having those extreme and what ifs and just having those things crossing your mind. And I think in a way, horror film is a great way to like take these pulsions out, just like put them, make them real so that you can like better continue afterwards. Like kind of like getting rid of like, you know, all this like darkness that can sometimes like, you know, cross your mind, or all those stories, ideas that you have and that you would have trouble coping with and that you would never want to experience in life, but yet they are there and they're gnawing at you, and that you just like live them out, like, you know, once for good in that film in a way, either through watching or through making, through like, you know, acting. I think like in a way that's like the nature of the appeal of the genre, and for this reason, I know for me anyways, it's very empowering to be able to like watch a horror film that scares the shit out of me, so that I'm no longer scared of that, because I've been through that experience, and then I know afterwards what it feels like, or to like, well, or like have some sort of idea about that. And again, I guess it kind of links back to like the fear of the unknown, and it allows us to explore that unknown territory.
Well, yes, I mean, the origins of Greek theater, you know, was catharsis, and I think film is another form of theater in a way, it's storytelling, and I think it's a catharsis of our deepest impulses. That's why
I just have a quick question. How many of you have gone to film school? And I'm just curious, people ask me this question all the time. Did you go to film school as well? Oh, everybody? Do you feel now that you're making films?
I was kicked out.
Why am I not surprised?
It was in Concordia. Here.
That's wonderful.
Where's my teacher?
I guess it's just because, you know, I'm just wondering whether you feel like it was necessary, you know, because I speak to a lot of male filmmakers who are like, you know, I don't think you should need to go to film school in order to make films.
You know, me, I just went because I wanted to have access to material and camera first, and I wanted to learn how to use it. I had no idea, I didn't know how to, so I had to start somewhere. So, but that was my only reason. Honestly, mon Dieu, si j'avais pas été acceptée dans les écoles de cinéma, j'aurais trouvé une autre façon de faire mon chemin.
Like, I know for me, like, I wanted to do it because I wanted to learn the technical aspect of it. I was thinking, especially if you want to be a director, you're going to have to start somewhere that's maybe not directing. So, like, it's always useful to kind of know how everything goes on behind the scenes. So I kind of went just in terms of that, just to kind of like understand how everything works. Also, I was fortunate enough to work on film, which is really like more and more dying. So I think nowadays it's definitely easier for anyone just to pick up the camera, and that's how I made my first short. I just picked up my dad's like, you know, Handycam, and I shot something with friends. But I think like, you know, going through the process of working with a very, like, not so much an expensive medium, but like a medium that's like, you know, you need to put more thought process into it, was helpful in terms of like thinking about the importance of like the thought process that's going to go on before making your film. Because anyone can just shoot a movie in 48 hours, you know. I mean, I've done it, like, you know, a lot of people do it. Like, just those kind of like, there's all those like film races going on, and it's great, and it's a legitimate form of filmmaking. But I think when you have to go through the process of making your film, and well, I mean, you've experienced it with your own, but I mean, I guess film school is another way of like having to think so much about a project and really rationalize it, and then you have to write about it and explain why you want to do things. So I think it's not so much film school, but it's what's important, I feel, is really taking the time to sit down with yourself and think things through of every single thing and the reasons why you do it and how you want to show it. So whether some people get it through film school, you probably went through the same thing, which is like getting that Kickstarter project off the ground, just like planning out like the application form is like another way of doing it, you know. So
En ce moment, oui, c'est vrai, c'est super facile. Tout le monde a accès à des logiciels de montage, des caméras. Moi, juste pour préciser que si j'ai été à l'école, moi, dans mon cas, j'ai commencé en 94. Puis en 94, il y avait du i8. J'avais comme les logiciels, c'était, comment ça s'appelle, Amiga, something like that. C'était vraiment de la boîte. Si tu voulais avoir quelque chose d'un peu plus professionnel, tu n'avais pas le choix de passer par des... juste pour préciser. Aujourd'hui, si je commençais là maintenant, je n'irais pas à l'école. Je prendrais une caméra, j'apprendrais sur le tas.
And I guess just to answer your question, like, I mean, I've seen people who went to film school and they made ridiculously shitty movies, right? I mean, in a way, I don't think film school is in any way essential. I just say it's just a matter of people's own personal journey into this, right? Whether it's through literature or watching lots of movies.
You watch a film from Karim 7 yesterday, right? Karim is a good friend of mine. Karim was, I don't want to sound young to Concordia and to do school and blah blah blah. But Karim went to Concordia almost 2 years before me, and he stayed I think for 1 year and he left because he was unable to do the film the way he wanted to, and look where he is right now. I mean, he's a famous director. He's a very talented and yeah.
Yeah, that's a great fire.
And I think nowadays, because there are actually a lot of artist-run centers and co-ops and things like this, where you can pay like a $50 a year membership and have access to like film equipment, video equipment, like all kinds of stuff, workshops that they have there. So there is actually alternatives that if you actually just want to learn the hands-on technical aspects of how to use the equipment and have access to the equipment for much cheaper than going to film school, and then just watch movies alone.
And that right there is making it easier for women to become involved because like I said before, filmmaking is a technical art, and you know, historically women have been discouraged from going into the technical arts. Film school was for men. It was never really, women were going to like a receptionist role, you know, in the past, but everything is changing. So it's becoming a lot easier. I just, you know, basically surrounded myself with people who knew what they were doing and begged them for help. And, you know, and just obviously studied film on my own, in my own time. So, you know, I learned about filmmaking in a very unorthodox way. So I didn't, you know, hold on to
It depends on like film school.
I like school.
I like it. No, I think it depends on who you are. I liked going to film school. Some people don't. We're all here.
Anyway, it's time for like one more question.
No, me, it does. Depends on how I feel. Sometimes it's men, sometimes women. Doesn't matter.
No, me, it's usually, actually depends. In this one, it is a woman, and Graveyard Live was a woman. So the one I'm making now, well, it's a woman, yes. It's Lilith, based on the myth of Lilith, but the counterpart is Satan, who's just as important in the story. And then the one about the evil vampire who rips the baby out of his wife's stomach. Half of the film is from the woman's point of view, and half of the film is from the man's point of view. So I like putting myself into a male psyche, but there's always a woman in there somehow.
I've had a few that it was indeed a woman, but that latest one, I feel like even though the antagonists are equally as important, it's still the guy's story that, like, you know, and it starts from his point of view and it keeps on going from this point of view. And I found like I like playing with, again, me too, like having both a male and a female protagonist who are like equal in some way, and then playing with perception and point of view and which side of the story are we seeing at this point.
And my short is the star is a 6-year-old girl, so not quite a woman. She's a six-year-old girl. I don't know why she ended up being a little girl. It's just how I wrote her. And now when people read the script, they always relate her to my daughter because I had a baby 14 months ago, and the movie is about like life and death and rebirth and all these themes. And it's interesting because I wrote it way before I ever knew I was going to have a child. So I don't know, there's some kind of subconscious thing going on. Maybe she's mean. I don't know. Or did you know?
All right, well, thank you everybody for coming.